Hello and good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming back to join us on Talking Business. I've been on a bit of a hiatus, so I thank you for tuning in to what I like to call our reruns and our best shows of our last season of entrepreneurs who we're talking a little bit about their pivot plan. I think we learned a lot. And so I wanted to kick off this next series or session or season, for lack of a way to put it, with two people that I have known for many, many years. And I thought it was important to start this show because we're really now at a very important part in our conversation around equality, and in particular, equality when it comes to wealth and opportunity for small businesses. And these two people have been advocates in that space for a very, very, very long time. So without further ado, because I know you tuned in to see them, not me, we will start with Carole Ann Taylor. How are you today?
Hi, good morning. I'm doing great. Good to see
Thank
you,
you for
Stephanie.
thank you for agreeing to join us. As I
Yes.
mentioned, Carole Ann is the owner of Miami to Go, but has also been a great advocate when it looks at small businesses, especially in the tourism space. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we bring on Eric Knowles. How are you, Eric?
I'm doing great, thank you. How's
Thank,
everybody?
great, great, great. Thank you for agreeing to join us.
Oh, absolutely. When you called and said, I've been seeing what you've been doing, and
Thank you.
matter of fact, I think I called you one time. Like, what do you? We need to be a part of this as a chamber.
I was like, we got to
Yeah.
get you on here. We got to get you on.
Yeah.
We got to get you
This
on.
this,
We have a
this is
real
really great, Stephanie.
thank
Uh,
you. Thank you. So as I mentioned, well, let me say really quickly, Eric Knowles is the executive director of the Miami-Dade Chamber, whose mission really is to support Black businesses. So let me start by asking you, who are you and what do you do? And we'll start with you, Carole Ann, if that's okay.
who am I?
Hmm.
Well, I've been in business for over 30 years. I started at Bayside. I'm in the travel retail business, and really until this pandemic, it never occurred to me that the space that I'm in is totally dependent on tourism. I've always served the traveling public. All of my stores, all of my gift shops, from Bayside to Little Havana to Miami Airport, I have built to serve the traveling public. And so I have done that for 30 years. I've also been in government. I was in government for a long time. I happily belong to the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce, and I serve on the board of the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, and those kinds of things. The Arts Center, they allow me to really interact with other businesses,
Hmm.
and use what my experience to try to help to uplift and provide support to other small businesses, because that's desperately needed here in Miami. So that's who I am, and I'm a jazz singer. I do that as well.
Okay. And Eric Knowles, will you share with us who you are and what you do?
Eric Knowles. um, as you said, I'm actually the president and CEO of the Miami-Dade
Okay.
Chamber. I have been in this position now for about 6 years. Prior to that, I worked for the Miami Dolphins organization for about 15 years, but served on the board of the Miami-Dade Chamber for several years and many other chambers, as that was part of my charge when I was with the Dolphins, to be engaged with the business organizations. And so when the opportunity came along, I saw it as the right fit for me.
Mhm.
So, as you said, our mission is to create opportunities for economic and social transformation in our community.
Mhm.
We advocate each and every day for Black business, minorities, and women,
Yep.
and that's our mission, and that's what we do. I have a board of directors that help me do this. Staff of three individuals that help me do this as well: Beverly, James, Paris Ward, and Matthew Pygott. Matthew manages he is our membership manager, and he also manages our microloan program and our technical assistance this program. So that's what we do every day. And Beverly is our VP of Finance, and Paris keep us all together.
Okay. Okay. So, um, this show actually sort of started during the pandemic with a thought of seeing if we could have a conversation, a candid conversation around small business. I think you both know that Miami-Dade has what I think 81% of the businesses here are considered small business, according to the bar or the Small Business Administration guide. So, unfortunately, many of them have been hit, and many of those have been hit or may not open their doors again are African American. So I really wanted to get at or have sort of a conversation that talks about the system, how we can make the system better, and then also small businesses. What is it we need to do that's a little bit different as well? I did a little research, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics says, outside of the pandemic, 20% of small businesses fail in the first year. By the 10th year, 70% have failed. Um, of that number, 8 out of 10 Black businesses will fail within the first 18 months. Why?
Well, a lot of it has to do, we say, capitalization, having the money to keep the doors open,
Mm-hmm.
having the money when you're just building your business and letting the world know that you even exist. You have to market, you have to have place. And when you talk about the pandemic and the fact that a lot of businesses are going to fail, in particular in the Black business community, um, I, it's due to lack of capitalization, but it's also due to the lack of what I call having the back of your house together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of businesses, even in their legal organization, whether they were a small proprietorship or whether they were a subchapter S, whether they were LLC, etc., they didn't receive PPP because they didn't have, again, as I said, the back of the house together. They weren't
Mm-hmm.
registered properly, or they thought they were registered with the state. They did their state filing when they first opened, but 2 or 3 years went by and things may have been tough, and sending in that $400 or $500 to the county or to the state for registration, they let it lapse.
Mm-hmm.
But they're doing business. But now, when you need to have those papers together from a legal perspective, they don't have it.
Okay. So go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have to say, I guess I call it underfunded
Mm-hmm.
because even those of us that go into business in the beginning, we don't necessarily know what we need. We have not been trained. We do not come from a class of
Mm-hmm.
where you know automatically how to go into business, and so many of us start with not enough funding.
Mm-hmm.
And even and don't necessarily know that we don't have enough funding. But as important as Eric has said, if you have not taken the time to get an accountant or at least a bookkeeper, talk to an attorney, um, you're gonna have big problems down the road, and so that has been highlighted to such a great extent during this pandemic. It's really unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree. I think the pandemic really has shined a light on some things that we need to do differently, both as small business owners and within the infrastructure, which I'm very curious. I think, Eric, before you hopped on, Carole Ann and I were talking about, I've been in conversations with someone where we talked about intentional investment. This is a city that, as I mentioned, has a very high small business community. 80%, well over 80% of the businesses here are considered small business. So there is an infrastructure here, but it all seems to be about investing in startup, new businesses. Unfortunately, it hasn't increased the hiring, and if we have businesses that are failing outside of the pandemic, what conversations are we hearing now, or what systems have been put in place to talk about scale up? Well, how are we now taking some of those businesses we've invested into startup to make sure that they can survive?
You make a very good point, Stephanie. Like you said, there are so many, I guess I would say, and I wouldn't say so many, but there are institutions, there are nonprofit foundations that support startups.
Mm-hmm.
If you have tech, if you have,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of support for tech, but not everybody is doing tech.
Right.
Not everybody has a different business model,
Mm-hmm.
and as I said, it's not all tech. We got businesses here in South Florida, from lawn maintenance to painters to contractors,
Mm-hmm.
to beauty salons, and these are the day to day businesses that keep the economy going,
Mm-hmm.
and there is no focus on that. And
Absolutely.
in terms of, as you say, helping those businesses scale, and there definitely needs to be, and I'm glad you brought that up. There definitely needs to be some type of support mechanism system built for those businesses that have been around for 5, 10, 15 years. And,
Mm-hmm.
they just need that little boost. But that boost to me is more of a technical assistance boost. Technical assistance from, is again, as I said, how do you have your business structured? What is the marketing plan for your business? What is your business plan? Now, some people, they're happy with where they are.
Mm-hmm.
They're not looking to grow, but there are those businesses that want to grow, that
Mm-hmm.
want to have more than one location, etc. That
Exactly.
may be um, primed to become a franchise because of the type of business they are, but
Absolutely.
they don't have the technical assistance to help them become franchises.
Absolutely. 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 And that's what I guess my concern is that, you know, at the end of this pandemic, we will really see how, how we land. And if, especially if you're talking Black businesses, we tend to be the people that hire from our community. If we're not here, what's going to happen? So, are there conversations? You're generally in those rooms. Are there conversations that are about being intentional, just as intentional as investing in the technology? Is there a real intentional conversation around investing in small business scaling, and in particular, Black businesses scaling?
Well, I'm having that conversation, and I'm trying to push that conversation. And one of the things that I talk about, in particular here in South Florida, I would say, unfortunately, what you see is what is in your face. And what I mean by that, what you see out there a lot that's in your face is construction. You know, you,
Mm-hmm.
you don't on a daily basis see the other businesses, the mom and pop, the young man, the young lady, the young family who's trying to open doors to start a restaurant, to start a boutique. You don't see that. So I talk about those business, that in particular, that business that you see in your face, construction, where you see the cranes, etc. And I use the term, and I've been pushing it quite a bit, is mentor protege
Mm-hmm.
programs, in which large businesses, and when you think about construction, when you see those 30, 40 foot, 30 floor, 40 floor condos being built, a guy who just started building houses doesn't know how to build a 30,
Mm-hmm.
40 foot or a 10 story building. So
Mm-hmm.
my thing about mentor protege, that person that is building single family homes who wants to graduate to start to build 10-story, 15, 20-story buildings, how does he learn that? So
Mm-hmm.
through the mentor protege program, you're bringing in the small contractor to learn from someone who is doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you push that? You push it through what I call the P3s, or public private partnerships, because you have these public private partnerships in which the federal government, the local government, whether it's the county or the city, municipalities are giving these developers breaks to build these buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they are and the building could be, for instance, the courthouse that they're talking about building.
Mm-hmm.
So you bring in a small contractor who wants to scale to partner up with a large contractor to begin to learn that business. But you can do that in every sector,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and whether it's in tech,
Right.
whether it
Right.
is in retail,
Mm-hmm.
and whether you can do that in every sector. So that's how you help small businesses scale.
And I was interested to hear what you have to say in the tourism space, Carole Ann.
Well, and in general, as a matter of fact, I think it's really, we have an obligation. Those of us who are in businesses and
Mm-hmm.
have been in business, we have a responsibility, especially now, to
Mm-hmm.
reach out in terms of the mentor protege. Our responsibility is to reach out. We have got to organize and reach out to our own businesses. We've got to help our own businesses as much as expecting to be helped by other people. I think it's really going to be important. I mean, my experience, I want to share that. I want to help. I want to help that business over there that doesn't understand or is trying to get off the ground. I think that's going to be really important for us going forward.
Okay.
That that
Uh,
that
I was going to ask, do you believe everybody could be an entrepreneur?
No.
not at and that's part of
No,
a problem.
everybody,
Part of a
everybody
problem.
isn't willing to take on that pain.
I actually have been in rooms where they're like, everybody can be an entrepreneur if you just dream about it. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm an entrepreneur. No, I have to convince
Yeah.
myself of that every day.
I recently learned when the county put out the 5 million and the 25 million
Mhm.
for loans for small businesses by district. District 3 is Overtown, uh, Liberty City, Little Haiti.
Mhm.
You cannot believe the number of businesses that are in that district. It just and who are those businesses, and what are they doing, and how are they growing?
Exactly.
To know they
Exactly.
came out of the woodwork. We have a lot of businesses, very small, and so that's where we're going to have to start growing them. They exist, as a matter of fact.
So, and Eric tapped on a good thing, and you're sort of leaning to that too. You are correct. There are a lot of businesses in that district, but they aren't tech businesses.
They're not
So
tech.
they're not, they are lawnmower services. They're what touch our lives every day, but that doesn't seem to be the conversation when you are talking about growth. Those don't tend to be the conversations people like to have when you're looking at creating something systemically. So if you had the whiteboard and the erasable ink, what's the plan? What's the strategy? What do you think needs to happen systemically to really, first of all, shift the mindset as to what's important, and then put into action some ideas, some concepts that are going to help these businesses grow and be successful, and then employ.
Well, you know, again, I go back to the thing of what I say, people who want to start a business um, usually comes from what I guess consider a hobby, something that they've been doing that they love to do, and they're good at what that is. Whatever it is, that widget that they may be making, that pie they may be selling might be the sweetest, great, best sweet potato pie. But you got to stop, as I say, playing business. You got to understand the business of business. And you got to surround yourself with those individuals who can help you. You need to have that lawyer that you can talk to. You had to talk to someone else who was in business and learn from their pitfalls, their ups and downs. You just, when I'm talking to young people, they say they want to be doctors or lawyers or whatever it is that they want to be. And the first thing I ask them, have you talked to a lawyer?
Mm-hmm.
Have you talked to a doctor? Do you know what that means to be a lawyer, or what it means, or what you have to do to become a lawyer or a doctor? So do we learn what it means to become a business person? I mean, you may be a great, as I say, pie maker, but do you know what it means to be a business person? And to me, that's where we fall short, that we don't surround ourselves with the support system, the marketing, social media. Obviously, if you're not on social media right now, you're not in business, or, I mean, that's a big part of being in business. And if you don't have if you don't know how to do it yourself, you need to have a social media team that knows how to do it, how to do these things that connect you to the outside world. So to me, again, it begins with to stop playing business, but to really look at what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Understanding that you got to go not just the extra mile, you got to go. You can't stop.
Right.
It's one of those
Right.
things.
Right.
It's not, again, it's not about going the extra mile. It's about knowing that you can't stop in order to be successful.
Right. Carole Ann, would you like to chime in?
I started my business at Bayside, actually, and I had been in government. I got fired from a job, and I went to Bayside, and Bayside offered me a location. I just have to say, I know that had I not gone that route at the time, and this is what needs to happen now, is why I'm saying this. I was given, not knowing anything about business, I was given an attorney. I got to choose. Bayside paid for it, but you couldn't go in there unless you had an attorney and an accountant. They then formed relationship with the banks and gave each of us a $50,000 line of credit, helped us to create inventory, and all of the things that none of us knew how to do. They created us. And I know that I would not have known to do that. I had no idea that I needed an attorney or anything like that.
Right.
And so now when we look back over that, when you ask what can be done, I think that we're going to have to go back to the banks. We got to form some relationships.
Right.
To
Right.
to the Black Lawyers Association, to the Black accountants, and say, please help us. We need to form a relationship to help grow these businesses.
Okay.
That's what I see. Maybe I'm being optimistic, but that is what I believe can happen in this future. And I think that's the only thing that is going to bring these businesses to the level where they can participate on a level playing field.
Do you think South Florida is equipped to do that, though? I mean, do we have the infrastructure really to have those conversations and make those witnesses?
I think that we have enough banks. I think we have enough corporate people that could assist in this process. I do believe that.
Okay.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that, Eric?
Eric?
I have to apologize. I'm not hearing Carole Ann. So
okay, I'm sorry. She was
Yeah.
asking. She was asking, how do you feel about? She mentioned that she thought relationships were key, and that at this point it is very important for us to pull together the banks, the Black Attorney Associations, the accountants, and say we need to help support and rally around providing this technical services for African American businesses. And she was asking how you feel about that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's something I have been trying. Carole Ann knows. I've been trying to do that for some time now. To, like, you have the various Black Lawyers Associations, you have the Black Accountants Associations, and yes, we need to create that pool of you have those organizations that give pro bono service, and we need that type of infrastructure within the business community, a business center where businesses can go to and
Yes.
get an hour of consultation,
Absolutely.
and go from, as I say, from across the board, from marketing, from legal, from accounting, CPAs, and business gurus like Carole Ann Taylor's. And again, you can be an attorney, but you're not. Yeah, you're in business doing what you're doing, but it's not. It's not running. And I'm saying this, and I'm thinking about it as I'm saying it. Obviously, as an attorney, you're running a business, but it's a different thing with someone who is who has to go open that door and produce a product, whatever that product is, whether they're producing it with their hands or whether they're producing it with others, bringing people into a room to create whatever it is they're creating. So you need someone who, as I said earlier, when I asked a young man or a young lady, what is it that you want to be? Talk to that person who's done it. So it's not just having that lawyer in the room, not just having that accountant in the room. It's also having someone to sound off, be a sounding board for what it is that you're doing.
Okay.
Someone who is successful at it.
Yeah. I look at, for instance, I was fortunate enough to get into the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small.
Yes.
And I must tell you that it is extremely intense, and sets a course for you to be successful in business. It is intense. It is several weeks of training. I'm looking at that two ways when I speak about the small businesses. The businesses that have been trained and gone through that process are our perfect candidates to help our other small businesses. And there have been many classes in Miami. I'm gonna guess that a couple thousand businesses have gone through that program in Miami. Who are those businesses? How can they help? How can they help to bring up other businesses? And maybe that's an affiliation that we need to look at. We need to look at everything we possibly can.
Is Goldman Sachs still in existence? I thought.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, they're recruiting now for the next class.
Okay. Because I know that's one of the programs I know that's out there that looks at that whole scale up model. I believe
Absolutely.
Emerging Leaders is also one. But overall, when you're sort of trying to look at how you might be able to get into some of those programs, the scale up seems to be a little bit less than maybe startup opportunities that are out there.
Yeah. Goldman Sachs right now, I believe they're recruiting for their new class that'll begin in January because they have a class starting, I believe, just started. So they're recruiting for the new class that will begin in January.
Now, are there any cities or countries, for that matter, that we do a lot of studies, of course, that have demonstrated they're doing this right, meaning have developed an infrastructure that's really about supporting small business, supporting Black business? Are there any models that you can think of that have really are on the brink of making this successful for others?
I don't know. I don't know if there's any one particular city across the U.S. We all, in all our communities, we were suffering when it comes to Black business. When we think about our overtowns, when we think about our Liberty cities, Opelika, every state, every major city has an overtown, has an Opelika. But I believe in Detroit, they are trying to do things. Detroit has been beat up for many, many years and has suffered from the interior. And so I know there are things being put in place in Detroit. I tell you, one person probably has a better fix on that question than someone you should have on here is David Wilson.
Okay.
David Wilson
That's true.
uh,
Write it down.
yeah, has focused on Detroit and some other cities. And then another person I would say is Fabiola
Okay.
Florenville, if you at her as well, because Fabiola is doing things in Atlanta,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Detroit as well. So there are cities and speaking with them, that there are opportunities to partner with other like-minded black businessmen and women. And then another person I would talk to is Danny Felton. Danny Felton is he's a realtor, mortgage broker. Danny is doing things outside of Miami. He's doing things in
Okay.
Birmingham as far as rehabbing houses and what have you. So, and then you got to think about it when you think about rehabbing houses and being in that real estate game. Those communities are more accessible in terms of cost. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
and so we got to think about that as well, coming outside of our sandbox and looking at other opportunities. Because again, when the average with the housing um, um, the housing the number that, and I'm losing the term, but the average housing value is $375,000 here in Miami.
Right, right, right. So because they recently we did there was an article that said you have to make an income of at least 77,000 to live in this city. Well, if small businesses, and according to my the reading, can only hire maybe 1 to 3 people, which came into play when we were looking at the PPP loan, and the average income is $45,000. You know, and then you add to that it's a small black owned business. What do we need to do differently? What's not working? What's the shift we need to make so that businesses are able to meet the standard of living here, because the cost of living may not go down.
Right. Again, to me, a business is, in particular, you're selling something. You have to have a product that people want. So you have to make sure that you are delivering on a service that you say that you're going to provide. Whether again you're selling a product, or whether you're selling a service.
Bless you.
And it
Thank you.
and to me, if you're doing that right, and you're bringing all these other things into play, you're accessing what supports that you can have. For instance, as I said, the chamber, we have
Hmm.
a micro loan program. Knowing knowing what is available to you, and being ready to access those tools that are available to you, will help you grow your
Hmm.
business. Um, right now with PPP, I know that Tools for Change, it has a loan that will turn into a grant if you do everything that they ask you to do in those 12 months. That $25,000 loan will become a grant.
Hmm.
So it's being able to access the support that is out there will help you, in particular during these hard times.
Hmm. Hmm. So I asked earlier, do you believe everyone can be an entrepreneur? And you both laughed and said no, and I agree. What is the characteristic of an entrepreneur?
You're looking at one right there, so I'll let her answer that question.
The
Well,
ultimate entrepreneur, right there in the middle.
You know, I think I really have to go to my spirituality and say that you have to believe that you can do what you're setting out to do. That's the first thing. And you cannot let obstacles get in your way. You have to see them as opportunities. I don't know. I think it is my faith, basically. I'm talking years ago when I first started out. It never occurred to me that I could not do this.
Mm.
And whenever I went after funding, or whenever I went after another location, I just kind of pushed. I just pushed my way through.
Hmm.
It takes a mental consciousness. It takes a state of mind
Hmm.
that says to you, I I can get there.
Mm.
I think that's the most important thing in being an entrepreneur.
Okay.
You cannot stop, and you cannot think that you're going to fail. You got to keep looking at what it is you're trying to do, what it is you're trying to sell, what service it is you're trying to provide. And I don't think that I just don't think, because I've watched a lot of young people who get discouraged.
Mm-hmm.
And, that discouragement keeps you from thinking out the box.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So it's an attitude, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
and it's preparation, secondly. Like, I didn't even know that I needed the preparation, but thank God I got it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then um, if you cannot get the funding, and if you don't have the ability to turn this dream into a reality,
Mm-hmm.
you have to know that you can't do that. That you can make it work. It's very difficult. I mean, what are the characteristics of an entrepreneur? Tenacity, um, willing to learn, willing to fail and keep on going. Those to me are some of the major facets of being a real entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they say, there's an expression, you know when to hold them and when to fold them. And a lot of us don't know that.
Yeah. Um.
Well, and again, for I don't. We were having challenges. Me hearing you all that. I'm not hearing Carole Ann at all right
Oh.
now. But it's having the right. One thing is having the right mental state, because there are going to be days that you can't pay yourself.
Mm.
You're going to have to come. And it's about relationships as well. It's
Yes.
being able to build relationships for a support system, because there are going to be times that you're going to need help from others during this, while you're in this process. As I said, they say you got to go the extra mile, but it's more than going the extra mile. You got to keep going.
Right.
Sometimes 24, 48-hour nights, days that you have to put in. And the other thing that we talk about in particular in starting a business is we want to perfect everything.
Mm-hmm.
And they say perfection can be, there's a term for it. Perfection can actually be your downfall, because as you're trying to perfect, you're just losing time in getting your
Mm-hmm.
business started.
I agree. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because Yvette is watching, and I am going to get Carole Ann off by 11 o'clock, I promise. So we're going to stop here. But there's so much more to talk about, and I would love to invite you both back again, maybe separately together, so we can delve a little bit more into this. But before we go, I wanted to ask each of you, and I'll start with you, Eric, because I want Carole Ann to talk a little bit about the Overtown Overture. Where can we reach you? How can we reach you? How can we find you later?
So the chamber, the website is www.m-dcc.org, or you can call the chamber at 305-751-8648. That's 305-751-8648.
Okay. And then we will turn it over to you, Carole Ann. How can we find you at Miami to Go? And then if you will tell us a little bit about the Betsy Hotel Overture. And I would love it if you could, I'm going to put you on the spot if you like. Sing a little bit.
Oh no.
But you,
Oh, I wanted to do two things. I want to talk about two things though,
Okay.
because we haven't mentioned. I chair the multicultural
Yes.
tourism committee of the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, and that is a department that was created some 5 years ago to really assist small businesses, our small Black businesses, in terms of the who are in specific neighborhoods, who are in what we consider to be our heritage neighborhoods, where the possibility and the reality of tourism being in those businesses exists.
Mm-hmm.
Overtown, Little Havana, the Black Grove, Little Haiti. Those are historic locations
Mm-hmm.
that have the ability to attract tourists, and so businesses in there are very important.
Mm-hmm.
The organization does several things, but one of them is to train small businesses that are in those spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And they now do it through the Bayside Foundation. But going forward, there is such a huge opportunity
Mm-hmm. Right.
to connect these businesses and train these businesses. So I wanted to mention that the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau is someplace that we will be looking to and that is participating in the growth of these small businesses.
Okay.
Um, as far as and Overtown is a perfect example. It is such a pleasure for me. You have no idea how much I'm enjoying
Yeah. Good.
bringing the spotlight of the world to to Overtown. And so I perform at the Betsy Hotel on a regular basis when they're open, and realized that this is their ninth year. As a matter of fact, I was unaware of this until I started over there. But this is the ninth year where they where they celebrate Overtown once a year in September, and it's called the Overture to Overtown. And we have been able to take it virtual this year. Generally, it is that the hotel in the celebration
Mm-hmm.
brings musicians. 7 days a week is jazz, and it's a dedication to the music of Overtown,
Mm-hmm.
because you know that Overtown was and is the Harlem of the South,
Right.
and can be again. And so we have taken musicians. We have taken 11 performing musicians, 4 poets, and 5 scholars, and the history of that are telling the history of Overtown. We started last Monday with what was the history
Mm-hmm.
with Dr. Fields, Dr.
Okay.
Dorothy Fields.
Okay.
This Monday we have Tim Barber, who is the
Okay.
executive director of the Lyric Theater, and an archivist, speaking about what happened in Overtown.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Nice.
And then the following week, Dr. Marvin Dunn will
Okay.
be speaking about where is Overtown now.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow, that's going to be a powerful conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the final week is Neil Shiver
Mm-hmm.
of the Overtown CRA and Dr. Graylin Swillywood
Okay. Great.
on on what is the future of Overtown. And through all of those conversations, they are interspersed with wonderful music that is celebrating the history of Overtown and the pictures, the artists, the spoken word artist. We have Butterfly, we have
Oh.
Octavia Yearwood, we have Marcus Blake, and many musicians. Brenda Alford, Lisa Richards, Nikki Cole, Nikki Yarling, Nikki Kidd, and just celebrating what Overtown is and can be. And so I believe that it's going to be a powerful force, um, first of all, in bringing recognition, not just to the world, but Miami in and of itself. There are so
Right.
many people in Miami that don't know the story of Overtown.
Absolutely.
So this
I
is
agree.
powerful. The Betsy is doing this, and I'm so happy to be a part of it. In sponsorship with Florida International University's Miami Beach Urban Studios, and a grant from the city of Miami Beach, and we have many sponsors. My one of my favorite sponsors, I must say, is WDNA Jazz Radio, the only jazz radio in South Florida, and the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, Miami Jazz Cooperative, Sunshine Jazz Organization, and the sponsorship goes on and on. And we have an artist, archivist is what she is, that has captured the images of so many of our black jazz musicians that the pictures are fabulous. This is a well-rounded, phenomenal. I wish it could go on and on, but thankfully we have 4 weeks of it. So
Good.
please tune in next Monday and each following Monday in September.
Look, we found Carole Ann's passion for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure, your passion, and we thank you for that. As I mentioned before, I live in Overtown. It is my home, so we thank you because anything to show the true heart and soul of my community, I
Absolutely.
really appreciate. Because I think sometimes people get have the wrong perception. So yeah, that I love that.
Mhm.
Thank you again both for joining me today. This is a wealth of information. And of course, this will be running again through Facebook. So we hope that others will see this, reach out to you. And I'd love to continue to have this conversation and also offer myself to say, in future support as we try to help grow our businesses, I'm in on the conversation and I really appreciate,
Awesome.
you knowing so. Thank you so much for joining us. Have
All
a great
right.
day.
You the same. Take
Okay.
care.
All right. Bye
Take
bye.
care.
So, thank you everyone for joining us again today. We are doing things a little bit differently. Before, we were filming every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So, this time we've kind of slowed it down a little bit. Um, we will be doing a regular show or an actual live show once a week, either on Tuesday or Thursday, and then we will go back and revisit some of our other shows who still stand the test of time because entrepreneurs always have challenges, and there's always someone with a morsel of information that can be helpful to you as you start a business and as you try to scale your business. We all have been through it, so don't listen to others, and hopefully that will help guide you as you go through this journey we call entrepreneurship. And also, I forgot to ask Eric, I apologize, to mention that he actually does a show also every Monday. That too is about small businesses, small Black businesses in the Miami-Dade County area, where he interviews them as to what's going on with their businesses as well. So we want to make sure you tune in with the Miami-Dade Chamber every Monday with Eric interviewing some businesses. He did last month, because it was National Black History Month, every day. And so I'm sure many of those shows are still out there in the stratosphere as well. So thank you again for tuning in. We will see you again next Tuesday, where we will be talking to, wait for it, a dating company. A company that focuses on dating, and I myself was very intrigued by the idea of how one might date in a pandemic, and is that affecting a company that is their product. So we'll see. Tuesday at 10 a.m. Thank you again for tuning in, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great day.